So I'm going to show you guys my favorite way to organize your session inside of Pro Tools. So this one's for the nerds. So if you're not like super nerdy on Pro Tools, just don't watch this. So first I'm going to show you the session, and then afterwards I'm going to yap about all the philosophical nonsense about all my principles and all that. Okay, so I'm not doing anything crazy whatsoever, but something that I very much so value inside of a session is organization. So, every single instrument, every single track is organized and routed to a respective bus of that instrument. So, as you can see here, we have a kick, snare, overhead, and those are being routed to the drum bus, which goes up here, and this is being routed to an instrument bus. Any sort of instrument, a guitar, a bass, or even just some percussion, is all being inevitably sent to that instrument bus. I like to organize the tracks in order of importance and of workflow, and if I was working on drums on a console, number one would likely be kick, so I leave kick at the top. Then I would do bass, and then I would do guitar, and so those would follow respectively. At the end, when we have vocals right here, I have a lead tracking vocal and a background tracking vocal. And right here, this is being sent to a lead bus, which is then being sent to a vocal bus, and the same thing with the backgrounds. I'm sending the backgrounds to a background bus, which is then going to the exact same vocal bus. This is then going to vocal out. The reason why I don't stop at the vocal bus and I actually send it out to a vocal out is because if I wanted to put an effect on every single vocal, like a reverb for instance, I would want to send that out to the vocal out so I would have control over it. I want you to keep in mind that this isn't a template for me, this is more of a mentality. So if I'm not using any background vocals, I'm not going to make a background vocal bus. Okay, but where are the instrument and vocal buses? Thank you so much for asking. This is my favorite part. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom of the session, this is where I like to keep everything in line of importance. So as you can see, we have a vocal bus and we have an instrument bus, and those are both being sent down to the mix bus. And this is a little trick that I saw Greasy Will talk about on his live stream. He talked about this idea of putting a barrier right here, so I can see where my final gain staging is at a consistent level. If I walked back 25 feet, I would still be able to see this, and I would be able to tell you exactly where my vocal out bus was and where my instrument bus is. Okay, so why am I doing this? Why am I organizing this in such a weird way? What's going on? The whole idea behind this is just to be as consistent as you could possibly be. You have to know where your tracks are. You just have to as an engineer. There's no way around it. And if there are a million other things going on in the session, this is the last thing that you want to have to worry about. So having a principle, having a method behind all of your madness that you consistently do every single time so that you can rely on that is a really good idea to have. I started off working on a split console, which means that half of my faders, or whichever ones I was tracking with, were going to be record paths, and then the other ones were going to be monitor paths. Using this setup, I can kind of still wrap my brain around a split console theme, where in my head, these are kind of the returns, and these are my tracking sides. This is what works for me. It doesn't have to work for you, but I would highly encourage setting some sort of system in your brain just so this is the last thing that you have to worry about when you're being creative.